I've been scrolling Twitter all morning long trying to find the hard-hitting facts that I'm going to deliver to you on the Sprint Right Option podcast today. And all I found out is Nick Bosa is a Briefs guy. New Sprint Right Option podcast starts now.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners. Sprint Right Option podcast. Oh my goodness, we are live. It is a new episode of the Sprint Right Option podcast. I am Andrew Pasquini, taking a break from work today to join the Sprint Right Option podcast. Jason Aponte taking a break from saving the streets of New York in Spider-Man 2. More important than anything I'm doing right now, I promise. But how you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great, man. What a game!
Yes.
It was the perfect weekend for it to come out. Kind of took a little bit of a back seat with YouTube and not really doing too much. And then, you get the whole weekend, and obviously that just meant we would have to double up on Monday. But, watching Sunday football with nothing on the line aside from just fantasy and just laying in bed, top two things to do in the entire world at any time.
If Spider-Man didn't come out this weekend, I 1,000% would have opened up with how electric are football Sundays without the 49ers. Like, they're just so fun. You get to put your feet up. You don't have to worry about anybody hurting you on a given day. It's just – and we had a very good slate of games yesterday, I felt like really there was no – bad games, particularly outside of maybe Baltimore and Detroit. I think we don't talk about that though. We're pro Don Burr here on the Sprint Right Option podcast. But I thought it was a very good slate of games for the 49ers to not be playing.
I'll be honest with you. That Ravens game was the one that I was watching, and I wouldn't call it a bad game because it's so great for people to shut up about Lamar Jackson and just understand that you've been getting it wrong this entire time with Lamar. I don't want Lamar Jackson on this team. Yeah, okay, or whatever, pal. Yeah, he looks like that MVP guy. That was electric.
He is, to me, when he is on, and I think he's on more often than people give him credit for, but when he's on, there is no more fun football player to watch than Lamar Jackson. And yes, I'm sad it happened at the expense of, dare I say, our Detroit Lions, Jason Aponte.
Yes.
But I'm happy to say that Lamar kind of got a little bit of the mojo going, because I feel like he's been, like most of his career, he's been a little misconstrued in terms of how he's been covered and all that. But we aren't here to talk about Ravens, Lions. We're not even here to talk Dolphins, Eagles. We are here. We're here to talk
Spider-Man
Brian
2.
Boucher. How much better is Spider-Man 2 than 1, Jason?
Obviously, when you go from PS4 to PS5, you're going to see a huge difference in that. But the gameplay has been refined. The way that you can move around now, it's more like Arkham Knight, where you can float through the air. There's web wings now. There's a lot more Miles, who I think is, spoiler alert, and probably hot take, the better Spider-Man. He has way more things that he can do. He can go invisible. He can do that the shock thing. But yeah, it's so much better. I mean, it opens with a huge boss battle. I've already gone to like 2 and 3 spots where like it's big. It's just bigger, grander, and there's so much to explore. I feel like I'm never gonna 100% this game.
Honestly, I don't even care about Vikings Niners. I want to know Jason's like intricate thoughts between Miles Morales versus Peter Parker as Spider-Man. I think we need to schedule. Maybe it feels like a bye week episode.
Oh yeah, I mean that would be perfect. I would love to get into the finer details of like why Miles is the more impressive Spider-Man, especially even with his story. Like Miles's main antagonist and his main villain is his uncle, and it's just so cool, man. There's no Uncle Ben story for him, and it's just cool, man. Like that's it. Anyway, let's do this.
I look forward in 2 weeks when Niner podcasts are doing like, should McCaffrey be resting, and is Purdy really him? And then Sprint Right Option podcast. Miles Morales or Peter Parker? Your choice. No, but here we are. It is week 7. Forgot the number for a second there. Week 7, the 49ers main event of the week. They don't want you waiting until Sunday night. They make you wait a whole extra 24 hours for a Monday night football game against the Minnesota Vikings, a place where Niners haven't had much success in Minnesota. I think I saw something. They haven't won there in a while. The last time they played there, I thought we were witnessing the second coming of Joe Montana to Jerry Rice when Jimmy Garoppolo slid around on that back foot throw to Dante Pettis in the back corner of the end zone. Ooh, get me feeling. I have not felt things like that in a long time, especially at that point. But what matters here is it's 2023. The 49ers have won their last 2 matchups against the Vikings, both at Levi's Stadium. I don't think they know what to expect, though, with the game being at US Bank in Minnesota, because we sent secret weapon Sour Death Sam out there. They don't know what's going to hit them. So, Jason, really, I want to know your thoughts kind of on the whole game before we dive into 2 specific things. I'm sure we're going to start with the injuries, but give me your vibes on the whole game.
This is a perfect spot for the team to bounce back here. Honestly, at this point, and of course, whenever it's Minnesota, as you guys see in the thumbnail, it's about Kirk and Kyle. I thought that was electric. Shout out to Kyle for another banger of a thumbnail. Yeah, but no, this is very much a time for the 49ers to assert their dominance. There's a lot of talk now about the Eagles, and for good reason. They looked incredible last night, man. The class of the NFC is still the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's time for the 49ers to bounce back. Even without the injuries, you still have to understand that they're still the better team. I expect Kirk Cousins to not have a good game. Not only is it prime time, everything that he wants to do, the 49ers are good at on defense. That means throw the ball over the middle of the field. Obviously, no Justin Jefferson. The running game isn't as potent. All of those things kind of just line up for the 49ers in this one, and they can get out of there with a win, even when they are resting 2 of their big players.
Yeah, and so that'll be the big talk in this episode, at least, specifically with one of them. Let's talk about the player who will be there tonight. That is Christian McCaffrey. Seems to be the talk of 49ers Twitter. I mean, the second talk of 49ers Twitter, because Nick Bosa dropped a photo shoot, which alluded to at the top of the show. We don't need to dive into that. I don't need to be talking about. I like talking about Nick Bosa's sacks, but not like that.
We don't need intricate details about that.
No, we don't. But Christian McCaffrey is playing tonight. The report came out, I believe it was Saturday or Sunday, that he had a slight tear in his oblique. Some people don't want him to play. Some people do. I want to go back to a tweet, 2 tweets actually Matt Mayoko had. Once on October 17th, which is last Tuesday. This is when we weren't sure with any of the injuries coming out of the Cleveland game. As I understand it, Christian McCaffrey's injury is more of a pain tolerance thing. The extra day helps. And then this morning he tweeted, as Christian McCaffrey said on Saturday, he feels great. I think it's always been a pain tolerance thing. It's always how it's been set. To me, I understand in a vacuum, best player on the offense, playing a not great Vikings team. This is the game you sit him. But I am in the camp, Jason Aponte, where Christian McCaffrey says he wants to play and he looks like he can play a football game. He should play a football game. I know it's one thing where he says, hey, I'm feeling good. And if there's a physical limp, I guess it's not a leg thing, so he wouldn't have a limp. But if he's favoring the side, maybe that's where Shanahan steps in and says, no, let's not do this. But if Christian McCaffrey says he feels fine, Christian McCaffrey needs to play. Here's analytics for you, Jason. Christian McCaffrey needs to play in 100% of the games he says he feels he can play. Is that a good way to say it?
That's definitely a great way to say it. That's mind-blowing also, by the way.
Thank you.
No, look, if he says he's going to play, he's fine. I mean, he said he was great 300 times. I read the quote and I said, I wonder how he's feeling. I wasn't sure. He'll be fine. I think he's going to be fine. I think, again, with the oblique, a lot of people are taken back by the whole idea of it being a tear, but any sort of strain is a tear, sort of strain. So even if you heard, well, it's a strained oblique, it's still technically a tear. So it's it's all verbiage at this point. And I think people get nervous when you hear tear and you're just like, oh no, again, with this injury, there's no real risk of that. It's the pain tolerance thing. They'll probably give him a shot before the game. And I wouldn't be shocked if you see Christian McCaffrey kind of have his workload lightened. And you'll actually see a little bit more Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason in this game as well, too. I think what's really important is, even if you're not going to give Christian McCaffrey the ball, the attention that he draws gets people open. Even him just going in motion. So this may be a game, well, for fantasy football purposes, you probably don't want to hear this, where he's going to get 20 to 25 touches. He'll get those goal line touches that, and I still think he's going to score in this game. But the attention that he draws is so much that it'll spring Jawan Jennings. I expect George Kittle to have a big game because it's prime time. And this is the perfect time for them to do it. So his presence alone on the field whether or not he's touching the ball is so vital that even he can be a decoy. And I'm not sure that there's other players on this team that can be a decoy like him.
Yeah, I don't like cross sports references, but Christian McCaffrey really is the NFL equivalent to Stephen Curry. Like we talk about all the big splashy plays that Steph makes, but a lot of what he's doing is the off-ball movement. It's creating space. I know Warrior fans don't like how much Steve Kerr uses Steph Curry to create space for other guys, but it's using him to create space because he is in himself a planet. He creates gravity. People have to follow. So it's this thing where if Christian McCaffrey's in the backfield and he motions out wide, 2 or 3 Viking players might kind of shift that direction. And now you look at the other way, something happened, Jason. What did you
Breaking
just
news,
react?
pal.
Oh, Schefter tweeted.
Miami Dolphins in season hard knocks. Let's go, Coach Mike.
That seems fun. Okay, so I saw you make the face. I saw Schefter tweeted. I'm like, oh, what I miss.
Yep.
But when McCaffrey kicks out wide, a couple Vikings might have to follow him. He might not even get a look. It's just going to be going to things like that. And I think there's so many reasons you need to play Christian McCaffrey. One of them is Deebo Samuel's not playing. I think you could survive without Deebo Samuel. I don't necessarily think you can survive without Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, but we'll talk about those injuries in a second. But also, too, like, I don't like the thought of this is a winnable game. Give Christian McCaffrey the day off. I hate that thought because I don't know if you know this, Jason. The Philadelphia Eagles are a pretty damn good football team. And maybe, just maybe, if this is 2020, 2021, let's not go back to 2020. Let's say 2019, where it's 2 teams get a bye. And I think we've already kind of established the 2 top teams in the NFC are the Niners and Eagles going back and forth. If 2 top teams get a bye, maybe. I see it. I agree it. There's one team that gets a first round bye, and I already know what happens. Like I tweeted it to the group yesterday, Jason. If Christian McCaffrey gets sat today and the Niners lose in the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia, what are we talking about? Because home field could be lost tonight if the Niners lose. We don't think about it, but hypothetically thinking, the Eagles can go 16-1, the Niners go 15-2, Niners are out. So it's things like that. So I might be the most anti not playing Christian McCaffrey guy there is. If he says he can go, he needs to go. I don't care about anything else until the Niners have that number 1 spot cinched. I don't want to talk about worrying about playoffs in the future and all that stuff. The Niners need to win games now. That's what's important.
Yeah, and then, the outlook of how you view the schedule early on has changed now that we've got so many data points. Like, now that Ravens game scares the shit out of me. Scares the shit out of me at this point. I think there was some crazy stat that I heard today that for teams that are in the NFC that face Lamar Jackson, they're like 1-15.
Mm-hmm.
That is scary as hell. That means that's a dogfight on Christmas, right? Who knows what the Cincinnati Bengals are going to look like next week as well, too, right? Like, you have to find a way to get these done, right? And I think Christian McCaffrey is the type of guy that he gets going when he gets hit, right? Like, you don't want him to get rusty either and like miss a game and kind of like, you want to keep him going. Again, it's not all about like giving him the ball the entire time, but the gravity is going to spring Jawan Jennings for a catch on 3rd down, or just everything about him being on the field makes things easier. He's great in pass pro as well too. It's another thing that people just really don't understand that's important. He knows the finer details. He never, whenever we see Jordan Mason miss a block or something, we're like, damn it, Mason, but that never happens with McCaffrey. So again, like I do think it's a little bit overblown. And again, if he's ready to go, they should, obviously, and that football players play football. That's what they do. That's what they do.
Dare I say it's a violent sport, but yeah, I think the brand, because I think the original report too was small tear, and I feel like the word small fell off real quick. So I think it's a little overblown. Obviously, we'll see what it looks like in a few hours here with the Niners kicking off against the Vikings. We'll definitely see how it looks from the injury that is going to be playing to the 2 that aren't. No Trent Williams tonight. He's got an ankle issue. Deebo Samuel, the other news came out yesterday. He's actually out the next 2 games with a shoulder injury. I've made my feelings made about kind of Deebo Samuel's value in this offense. I'm a big believer in, hey, you want him, but if you're missing him, I don't know how much you're missing. I'm not trying to take away anything from him. That's more of a compliment of how good Christian McCaffrey is. Trent Williams is a bit. I mean, not even a bit of a concern. I think anytime, like, it's not even, this isn't even a Jalen Moore like slander thing. It's just more anytime Trent Williams is out, I'm scared because Trent Williams is really good at football. And no matter who you replace him with, there's going to be a drop off. I called Brian Flores Dr. Heat in my article today, numbers to know, because Greg Williams is in the XFL now, so we need a new Dr. Heat. I believe the Vikings are blitzing like 57% of the time.
It's an absurd amount.
The second most amount of blitz in the NFL is the Patriots at like 43%. It's kind of like the first down stat I had a couple weeks ago with the Browns. The difference between how often the most Vikings blitz versus the second most Patriots blitz is the same as the second most Patriots and like the 12th most. I think it was the Browns actually bringing Cleveland back into it. Danielle Hunter's very good, Jason. I don't think we need to say that. Is there? I think there's a level of concern to Jalen Moore, but how concerned are you with not just the drop off from Trent Williams to Jalen Moore, but also against a defensive line that really likes the blitz?
Well, obviously, like you said, it's not going to be anyone who can step in for Trent. But I do trust Kyle Shanahan to not leave Jalen Moore on an island and and construct a game plan around not putting him in bad spots. Where my concern comes in is when Trent Williams is obviously hurt. And when they asked him after the game in Cleveland, I didn't want to put Jalen Moore in that predicament. Like, it was literally like, you know what? I don't care. Like, I'm going out there. Like, I'm going to go do it. And it's like, damn, like, does that like leave you a little bit concerned? Because he's literally telling you, like, I didn't want him to go out there. And, you know, it can be viewed as, well, he's protecting his teammate. But that really didn't jive with me. Like, I thought about that over and over. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, that's kind of scary, actually, that he would say something like that. But given the week, given the extra day as well, to the game plan, and I think they knew that Trent wasn't going to go. You know, they can play the stuff throughout the week about, oh, well, maybe he'll go. I think as long as you can operate your offense normally and you don't have to change things to offset what's going on with Jalen Moore, that things will be fine. Sure, it's going to be a rough go because Danielle Hunter does line up on that side. Like, it's an absurd amount. But for me, it's more just like about, I think this offense is going to be able to still operate. They'll have their game plan, get the ball out quickly, it's about staying ahead of the sticks, not being in third down and distance long. That's kind of what Kyle was talking about in the Cleveland game. So I really just think that, honestly, for me, it's more just about like being able to beat that and operate your offense, which I think the 49ers can.
Yeah, and it's not just the Neil Hunter. I was impressed with DJ Wonnum last week. Andrew watched the tape last week. Andrew had some time.
Oh, wow.
He watched the Bears Vikings 98. I was watching 99 a lot for Minnesota, Danielle Hunter. I was pretty impressed with Wonnum, but then it's also where these pressures are coming from. You look at, Avon Pace, he has 8 pressures. He's a linebacker. Josh Metellus, he has 10 pressures of safety. Harrison Smith, I think he is my official, because I feel like we've talked Mercedes Lewis enough to be like, oh yeah, no, we know he's still in the league. Harrison Smith, I think, is my he's still in the league guy. Not that he's bad. It's just he's been around for a while and he's still producing. Harrison Phillips on the interior of that line. So this is a styles make matchups kind of game. I think the Niners are better than Minnesota, but there's specific parts where I think Minnesota might be sneaky better at dealing with, at least in terms of going against the Niners. So I'm interested to see how the Niners handle this blitz, because it's I feel like the offense, and maybe you're a little different on this feeling than I am, Jason. I feel like this offensive line's kind of like last year's offensive line. Is a lot of the preseason and camp we were talking about, how can we trust this offensive line? Realistically, it's been pretty solid, and I feel like that's all you can ask for out of an offensive line in the NFL today, because I feel like out of any position group in the NFL, there is a bigger drop off from starting tier to backup tier at the offensive line spot than any other position in the NFL.
Easily. 100%.
And so
quarterback's right up there too. But yeah,
and absolutely. Quarterback's up there too. Definitely. I think quarterback gets a little bit more attention because it's quarterback. Offensive line's a little bit of a dirtier position. But is that the feel you get with this offensive line, Jason? That maybe some of the worry is just we see Trent Williams and then it's just kind of a smorgasbord of names, and that's where the nervousness comes from, because I feel like this line's been better than it's been given credit for.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's just kind of focused on the names, but you're not watching how it functions. And that's really what it is more than anything. Like everybody wants replacements for other people, but if people were giving away linemen, then nobody would have good play. Like linemen never get traded. So there's no upgrades out there. There's nobody out there that you can go get. Nobody ever trades linemen. It's like one or two times that it's ever happened. There's no historical data to anyone doing that because of what Andrew said. Offensive line is so precious and it's so premium and it's so hard to find guys. You're not going to give away a lineman to someone else and then just play someone else. It just does not work that way because if everybody did, then everybody would just have no reason to fill in those positions because you've got backups that you trust, right? Like,
and I'm ass deep in trade deadline names that you could look at for the Niners. And just to give you an idea, the two offensive line names I've come across the most, Trent
Garrett
Brown.
Yeah.
Oh, Garrett Bowles is one too, and Ezra Cleveland. Like these, like no sexy offensive lineman names are being floated out. It's either you're gonna not trade for an offensive lineman or you're gonna get a guy who's kind of gonna be a rotational guy. So continue, Jason. I just wanted to throw that out there.
I mean, if the 49ers wanted to address the position, they could have done it in the draft. Hey-oh. But yeah, I mean,
somebody taking 111th who's a starting right tackle for the Browns right now.
Somebody who like did really well against the 49ers, right tackle. Funny, huh?
Did the Niners have a pick before 111 too?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
They had like 86. Neither here nor there. Neither here nor there.
No, the thing is the offense operates even with these guys, right? Yes. Like, and that's the thing. And obviously there's going to be moments when someone loses a rep. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But at this point right now, it's the offense is functioning. So when everybody looks up the pressures and everything, as long as they're not back-breaking sacks or pressures that lead to turnovers or anything like that, or ending drives or putting you in down and distance, that's when you start to get worried. I don't think we've seen that as much because of a few things. Like Brock's good at situationally being aware, right? So we saw in the Giants game, they blitzed him 80% of the time. If that's what the Vikings want to do, there's answers for that. There's always answers for that. So the 49ers will be able to fix it, and I'm sure they're prepared for it. I don't think they were prepared for it like that against the Giants because that just wasn't their MO. But the offensive line's been fine. They've been able to just, operate the offense and not have those back-breaking plays that have put people in, bad spots with turnovers or anything like that. So it has been a little bit better than people have believed. It's not like this doom and gloom thing. And we're getting past the point of all of these historical pass rushers, right? Poor Colton McKivitz has got to go up against Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, and TJ Watt. And this is like, my God, man, like I feel for the guy because there's right tackles that I'm sure that are better than him that still struggle with those guys because they're all world. I mean, Myles Garrett is probably the best defensive player playing football in the game today. I don't know if you guys watched him on Sunday. He was incredible, man. I couldn't believe it. He's blocking punts. He's fumble recoveries. He's sacking the quarterback. He jumped over to block the field goal. He jumped over the center. Like Myles Garrett is incredible, man. So again, like you're gonna lose reps, but they're getting past that point where they're facing these generational pass rushers. So that's another good thing.
Yeah, not to make this the Myles Garrett conversation, but like it's so funny because I had that thought too because I watched a good chunk of that Browns Colts game and just like, God, how can anybody be better than him? And then the afternoon game, TJ Watt had an interception, and you're like, oh yeah, that TJ Watt guy's pretty goddamn good too at football. Like it's so like. It's like I feel like I know we like to have this argument of who's better than the other, and that's all internet is nowadays. But like, I legitimately don't think you go wrong in the TJ Watt versus Myles Garrett conversation.
And I think this is a good point. Roberto Davis says, I am far more worried about Burford than I am McKivitz. And I think that's kind of where I've been because my expectations for McKivitz weren't like he needs to step in and be like amazing immediately. He needs to be replacement level. But with Burford, you spent the whole last season protecting him, as Kyle said, with the rotation. And Daniel Brunskill's not walking through that door.
No.
And then you expect improvement in year two, and I haven't seen that. That's what's more concerning, and I agree with Roberto 100% on that.
Can I ask a dumb question? And maybe this is a Brad Graham question than a Jason question. So if you don't know the answer, you have the access to ask Brad Graham this question. Is it easier to cover a tackle in terms of maybe the deficiency with an extra tight end than it would be to cover a guard in that? I guess in the conversation of McKivitz versus Burford, wouldn't it be a little easier to get help for McKivitz than it would for Burford?
It definitely is. I mean,
Okay.
because you can only chip outside the tackle, right?
That's
And
what I
unless
thought. Yeah.
yeah, unless you have like a timing play where you're gonna pull your tight end and he's gonna go with the guard, like there's no real way to give him help. The
Okay.
problems that I'm seeing with Burford, and again, I'm not the O-line guy, is little things like communication, like picking up the stunt. You that's the one thing that no matter what everybody's gonna say about McGlinchey, and I have to be honest, I haven't really been watching him in Denver. It doesn't sound like it's going too well. It doesn't
Hasn't
sound
been
like it's
going good from what
right.
I've heard.
Doesn't sound like it's going good for anybody in
No.
Denver.
Then
But
yeah, exactly.
but at least McGlinchey and Brunskill, they they had great communication. Now, whether you finished the block or not, that's something completely different. But the communication on stunts was so good between those two. And I think a lot of that is the stuff that you're seeing at times with Burford. And then on top of the fact that he's straight up losing his reps, it's some of it's fixable, some of
Yeah.
it has to be covered up with game plan, and some of it has to be him improving. So it's a mixture of all of these things right now with him.
Okay, I like because yeah, in my brain, it's if McKivitz is struggling, you could put George Kittle to help him next to him. But if if Burford's struggling, you already got McKivitz next to him. You can't put him in, and McKivitz is already getting help of his own. So
Right.
that's what I was thinking. So thank you, Jason. That was actually really insightful. I needed that. Thank you. Let's go from one offensive line to kind of the other, and Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins. I think we've talked about him at nauseum at this point. We all know him. I've been very pro Jason of I'm not too concerned about the sacks for the 49ers. Just keep getting pressures. Pressures create turnovers, things like that. I think tonight's the first night where I think I want them to finish sacks a little bit. And I know a lot of this goes into asterisk season of no Justin Jefferson. Minnesota's offense is going to be different. They didn't look very good last week against Chicago. But Cousins has only been pressured on 31% of his dropbacks this season. That's fourth lowest in the NFL behind Burrow, Lawrence, and Love, which not helping Love very much, to be honest. But when he is under pressure, he has the second best passer rating under pressure, 96.7, 7 touchdowns to 1 interception. I really like the Niners creating pressure, but it feels like with Kirk, like if you're a Niner fan and you've never watched Kirk Cousins, and you've heard this like, oh, Kyle Shanahan loves Kirk Cousins. It's going to take you 3 seconds to realize because it's very much snap, beat 1, beat 2, balls out. Snap, beat 1, beat 2, balls out. If the read's not there, it's snap, beat 1, beat 2, look, not there, beat 1, beat 2, gone. And it's just very robotic. So if the Niners, can knock him off of that beat, I think that'll help. But he's shown that under pressure, he stands in there. He doesn't care. It doesn't bother him. I think this is the first game where I'm big on the Niners need to finish these pressures with sacks. Cynthia just expecting everything out of Christian McCaffrey. 48 fantasy points tonight. I love that, Cynthia. You know what? Let's do it. 48. Let's get 49 for the 49ers.
Let's get 49.
Huh?
Let's make it a nice round number 49, right? Although the
Yes.
round number is probably 50. But yeah, look, obviously we know about Kirk in prime time. We know about that. That's a definite narrative. On Thursday Night Football against the Eagles, that was prime time. The Eagles lost, but Kirk actually looked really good in that game. But Kirk also had Justin Jefferson in that game. Now, when you don't have Justin Jefferson, obviously you're not going to be better because I still think he's the best wide receiver in the world. And then now it's about being able, like you said, the pressures are good, but yeah, you've got to finish with these sacks right now at this point. And you've got to like get some tip balls and things like that. I think I wrote about it today on Niners Nation. The prop is up there for over half an interception for Kirk. You got to smash the over on that.
Yes.
Like that has to happen in this game because he wants to attack the middle of the field. The 49ers are one of the best teams defending the middle of the field. All of this works at this point. So, especially with the fact that their running game is not as potent as they thought it would be, and they always wanted to really use that as well. Kevin O'Connell still wants to throw the football, but that will be playing right into the 49ers' hands, especially with how they turn the football over and turn offenses over. So I do really, really think that this is a game for the defense, even if the offense isn't clicking, which I'm still giving the 49ers. Spoiler, I think they're going to score 30 tonight. I do think this is a game for the defense to really, really put its mark on it, with sacks and turnovers and just making Kirk's life a living hell.
Well, and something that'll definitely help Jason Aponte. You mentioned the Niners are really good in the middle of the field, and I assume something that'll help them in the middle of the field against the pass game is to say Minnesota has no run game would probably be polite. It's not good in Minnesota. Alexander Madison, he's the bell carry running back. He's averaging 3.9 yards per carry. That's 25th of 35 running backs with at least 50 carries. Cam Akers they brought in, and I think he has
he's
a
not even playing.
high. Oh, he's not playing. He's just.
No, he's not. Like he's barely playing. The Eagles just traded for Kevin Byard.
Oh, that's interesting. Jason, all the Schefter reports happen at noon. Apparently, I like it.
I don't like that. I do not like.
But yes, Jason, to your point, Cam Akers not really playing. I'm trying to find his rushing numbers really quick. Since being traded to the Minnesota Vikings, 11 carries for 63 yards. It's a very bad run game. They had a stretch. So check this out. They had a good stretch of games from weeks 3 through 5. Weeks 1 and 2, they averaged 2.7 yards per rush. Weeks 3 through 5, 5.2 per rush. And then last week it was 2.1. But if you break down the opponents they played, weeks 1 and 2, they played the 7th best run defense and the 2nd best run defense. That's why they didn't get much. Weeks 3 through 5, where they averaged 5.2, they played the 14th best, the 30th best, and the 12th best. So not top 10. Last week against the Bears, they played the 8th best run defense. They play the 5th best run defense in the 49ers tonight. I don't think they're running the ball very much. I don't think you're going to be very successful running the ball. And that just makes that Kirk Cousins half of an interception prop look a little bit juicier, because I think the Niners secondary is going to be able to pin their ears back and just play pass. And that really plays into what the Vikings are doing, because it's not just like they can't run the ball. It's they don't run the ball because they can't run the ball. They throw the ball the second most in the league because they can't run the ball. So I think this matchup, this almost feels like a better matchup for the Niners defense than the Browns were last week. And I know that sounds weird, but that's just based off of tendencies, and not like off of tendencies take the names away. A team that just passes the ball a hell of a lot more than run the ball is going to make things so much easier on Steve Wilkes and this Niners defense.
100%. Yeah. And again, you're missing your best player, and it's all about all these things lining up for the 49ers. Everything is in their favor as long as they execute, right? Like, and you can almost say that feels really stupid to say, because you can almost say that every single week. But in this case, with what we have, it's about just getting the job done and getting out of there. No turnovers, right? Making sure you keep everybody upright, get out of there healthy as well too, but just play your game. And I think that's why the 49ers will bounce back in this one, because they don't need to do anything other than be themselves. And you could say that against any team, even the upper echelon teams. But in this game, they are far ahead of the Minnesota Vikings right now, even with, all the injuries as well too. They have a game plan and a play caller who's going to make sure that Jalen Moore is taken care of and not put in a bad spot. Wouldn't be shocked if Jalen Moore plays solidly today. Like, would not be shocked at all. But again, you can't just keep running him out there. So like a spot start is fine. Like we've seen McKivitz play for Trent Williams in a win or go home game.
Yeah.
And what happened there, right? So like it's one game, right? So in one game, when you can game plan around it, you have an extra day. I think the 49ers are going to be fine in this one. Like I've got them winning, got them winning by a bit. But again, it's all about the things that they do well, lining up against what Minnesota wants to do and who they're missing. That really has me confident more than anything.
Yeah, no, that is really where it's at. I think, as I said, I think the Browns, I know I picked the Browns to be a blowout, but I mean, looking at what Cleveland has done and how they've kind of handled opponents, it shouldn't come as a surprise the Niners struggled against them. I have none of that today. I just don't. Do I think this is now? Do I think this is a game the Niners can lose? Yeah, I think Minnesota is one of those teams that it's you beat them 8 out of 10 times, but there are a couple times where they do play a good game and can beat you. I don't think tonight's one of those nights. Jason, let's you want to get to predictions? Do you have anything that we haven't touched on that you've been itching? Because I think it's been a pretty clean preview.
The Eagles traded for Kevin Byard, and they sent a 5th and a 6th rounder. He's an all-pro safety.
The Eagles will be sending the Titans a 5th, a 6th, and safety Terrell Edmonds.
Who cares?
That doesn't change it.
Oh. Highway robbery, man. What the hell? Oh my God, man.
So I said this is a joke with the Eagles signing Julio last week. But now I'm kind of not joking. Panic trade for like Brian Burns. Because, like, okay, well, let's get into trade. Fuck it. Let's get into trade talk real quick because we're a week away. We're done with previewing the Vikings. Here's my thing. Here is my thing. The Niners have a bajillion dollars in cap space. Yes, I understand that it rolls over and all that stuff. That's a future Niner problem. I figure that out when you got to figure that out. The Niners also have draft picks. And while some people might be saying, hey, don't be all willy-nilly with those draft picks, Niners, don't be just trading them for anybody. Did we not learn that this franchise can trade 2 first-round picks and not have a first-round pick for 2 years and still be very fine? The Rams offered 2 firsts and a third to the Vikings or to the Panthers last year for Brian Burns. That price has gone down because Brian Burns' contract is lessening. I think he's a free agent at the end of this year. You don't have to offer that much. And there's other names that I know people want. Jalen Johnson is one in Chicago. I would love him. I think my ultimate one is Pat Surtain. But my point is, Niners don't need the picks. Niners have cap space. Go make a move. Go win the Super Bowl now. Figure it out later. Kind of like the Rams. Is that okay?
Well, the thing is I would be hesitant because even if you can't send 2, right? Because they turned down 2, and obviously his value, not from a player standpoint, but because of his contract situation, has certainly gone down. But I would be hesitant to do that as far as like a rental, because then Brian Burns leaves, right? Like, and he signs somewhere else, and then you have a lot of what that money was cleared up for was to roll over, because you do have to sign Brendan Ayuk. You are going to have other guys. What happens if, let's just say, the 49ers win the Super Bowl, and in 2 years, Brock Purdy says, hey, man, I want to get paid too. And now that luxury that you've had of having a starting quarterback not be one of your cap hits is now at your doorstep. So the Brian Burns thing is cool and all, but I wouldn't like get too excited about it. I don't think that's going to happen. I think something that's a lot more realistic is, while you're in Minnesota, John, why don't you leave with Daniil Hunter?
Yeah.
Leave with him, get it. Just say, hey, listen, send him on over to our locker room. We'll have him sign, we'll have him ready to go against you guys tonight. Just send him on over. So just have him walk across. So for me, I would look at more realistic like rentals, like a Daniil Hunter.
What about one name here's a dumb little Andrew article preview, NinersNation.com. I'm working, so since the deadline is on Halloween, I'm working on an article that should be out before. Ideally, it's out before the deadline because it's about all the players at the deadline. I'm going to make it what candy the players are. Like, you want the Reese's, right? So I think that's the little, you'll see it. What about Chase Young?
The injury thing, man. What's funny? Yeah, you know what's funny is, like, looking at that team, everyone is enamored with Chase Young, but I'd love to have Montez Sweat.
That's the other one too. Like, I feel like that's such an either or situation. I think Chase Young would be a little cheaper in terms of what you have to give up because of, maybe not. I don't know. That's an interesting one. Yeah. Chase Young or Montez Sweat. I think Chase Young, to me, I think it pops because first round pick. I guess Montez Sweat is also a first round pick, so that doesn't help that case. Look at me just foiling my own arguments easily.
No, we're just talking through it. But yeah, I think
I think it's the idea of Chase Young being a top 5 pick, the Ohio State connection with Nick Bosa, like things like that. Like, I think that, but Montez Sweat would be cool. Another name, I think Jerry Jeudy would be an intriguing one. Just for these are the whoppers where you have one and you're like, oh, that's good, and then you realize you have like 30 of them, so you trade them, be like, hey, let's see what this is, and then maybe it works, you extend them for a cheaper deal type deal. I think Jerry Jeudy could be fun, but that's also me going back to the 2020 draft. That's who I wanted in that draft. I don't know. I think there's a lot of very interesting names, and I feel like the NFL trade deadline the past few years has really developed into this, like, hey, players are getting traded now.
Into baseball's trade deadline, right?
Exactly, and I like that.
Yeah, and I think it's an arms race, is because everybody is responding to other people that are contenders, right? And again, it's still early in the year, but Week 8 is essentially the halfway point. Right before Halloween is when teams are going to figure out whether they should go for it or move on from someone and send them off as a rental, right? So, like, other names are going to start popping up.
Yeah.
As far as Judy, it's like, the 49ers are fine with their wide receivers and everything as well too. It just depends on what they want, but I'm good. He said something the other day, and it really, really like rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, well, you can't be a culture fit but he said, listen, I'm open, but other people aren't doing what they have to do.
Oh,
Like the
that's not
offensive
good.
line isn't, but yeah,
I
the
didn't say
offensive line's
that. Okay.
the offensive line's not blocking. Check the tape. I'm open. I'm just like, all right, bro. Like there's no way that you should be saying stuff like that. Like, and they need to have a leader in that room to like say, hey, listen, settle down. That's why Steve Smith was saying what he was saying about him. Obviously, I don't agree with
Yeah.
the way he was saying that, but
No, yeah.
it's to the point where it's just like, damn, man, like you're just throwing your team under the bus, right? Like, and I don't think that will fly there. And obviously everyone's looking at Denver because of the shit show that they are right now, right? Like you're looking around and you're like, hey, it's got to be one of these guys, right?
Yeah.
Surtain's not happening. Like Surtain's not happening. That's done.
No,
They already
no.
said that they're not doing it. Garrett Bowles is somebody who maybe because he's voiced like he wants to be out of there. The problem is he plays left tackle. Do you think that he can flip right over and play right tackle? It's not Madden. That's another thing that's like kind of funny about that. So yeah, like there's names out there, but again, it's got to be feasible targets, and I think there'll be some different names that come up, especially after this week when teams really figure out who they are, right, or what their aspirations are going to be.
Yeah, I think I realized that daylight savings is in 2 weeks, and that's where football season flips for me. That's where I think things get a little more serious. And the Niners 1,000% catch a break because they play the Vikings tonight. They play the Bengals in a week. The trade deadline is that Tuesday. The Niners have a bye. So whatever player they are acquiring, they're going to get 10 days. They're going to get 11 days to really make sure this player's in the system. So there's going to be a lot of names that are going to be floated out there. Another one I'm just going to throw out there, no context, Cordell Patterson would be a fun one in this offense, just to see what Shanahan can do with him. Because I do think they're going to look for another weapon just in case. Because you see what's happening. See how stressful tonight is just with maybe McCaffrey out and Debo out. So maybe just an extra one. But yeah, we'll see. The deadline's coming up. It's getting exciting. We'll see what the Niners do. They both have the cap space and the assets to make a move happen. So we're into that. Jason, before save the daylight, as Rob D says, we got to make sure we save that daylight. As we've been doing, Jason Aponte, Underdog, a promo code Aponte, and I believe I saw a tweet that the match number changed, right? Are they matching a higher value now?
Yes. So using the promo code Aponte, you can get your first deposit doubled up to $500. So they're really going at it with these promotions. Underdog is the place that you can hire lower wagers and things like that as well too, especially with the game. And I'm actually pulling that up right now because generally they give you a free square every play, right? So I think, all right. So if you want to do some real quick, give me Kirk Cousins over half an interception.
Yes.
Give me Juwan Jennings over 28.5 receiving yards.
Oh, you took mine. Okay.
Give me over 49.5 for George Kittle.
Okay.
And give me, they're smart. They're not, Underdog took away the half a touchdown for Christian McCaffrey. They're probably like bleeding money from that because they're just doing so well with that. And give me higher over 1.5 Purdy touchdowns.
Okay, I like that.
And let's see. I don't think Ray Ray's going to catch passes. Give me, let's see. All right, give me Talanoa over 3.5 solo tackles.
I like that. I will take, I'm going to go under 11.5 rushing attempts for Alexander Madison. I think the Niners get out early. Minnesota's going to have to abandon that run game. So there's my Minnesota pick. I'm going to take that Juwan Jennings 28.5. He's averaging like 20 yards of reception. All he needs is 2 catches at that rate, and you're golden. He's going to get 2 catches. I will give me it, Jason Aponte. 1.5 field goals made by Jake Moody. Let's turn it around. And then Javon Hargrave, half a sack. I think Minnesota's offensive line, the guy who's giving up the most pressures is right guard Ed Ingram. He's given up 20 pressures this season. Where does Javon Hargrave play? He plays on that interior. I will take that half a sack higher, Jason Aponte. So there's your Underdog picks. Use promo code Aponte to get your first deposit of up to $500 $100 matched. Look at Jason Aponte promo code. We love him. I just go to any website, just type in the promo code Aponte, see what it gets me. Sometimes you get something you just don't know. You don't know what Jason Aponte's out there doing. Let's get to predictions. That's what everybody's here for, Jason. The 49ers, as we've mentioned, 5-1 against the 2-4 Minnesota Vikings. Jason Aponte. I don't think this one's going to be particularly close. I think the Niners, as I said, get out early. They get out often. I'm going to go 33-10. 33-10 49ers.
Yeah, I've got it 35-13. I think the 49ers are they're gonna have a defensive touchdown in this one too. I would love to be able to pick something like that. Like will the 49ers run back an interception or a fumble or something like that? Yeah, and some betting if you guys want to check it out. Some things that I got my eyes on. I've got the Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown. I've got over 48.5 for George Kittle. I've got Kirk Cousins with 0.5 interceptions over, and I got the 49ers win. Those numbers are plus 445, and it feels really like kind of stealing a little bit because that's not too many hard things to do. I think for sure that we're going to see a big Kittle game this week. Again, it's prime time, and don't think that on National Tight End Week when everybody's going crazy, like Travis Kelce went crazy, Mark Andrews went crazy. You don't think that's going to happen? So, yeah, those are some of the best that I have for this one. But, yeah, I've got the 49ers winning going away.
All right, Jason. It's tonight, 5:15 p.m. Pacific time, 8:15 Jason Aponte time. There you go. Got that right. Jason, just to kind of finish off, I feel like we've been talking a lot of Eagles on this podcast. Field H just tweeted, current veterans on the Eagles roster acquired via trade. You ready for this to hurt? Wide receiver AJ Brown for a first and a third. Cornerback Darius Slay for a third and a fifth. Kevin Byard for a fifth and a sixth. DeAndre Swift for a fourth and a seventh.
How much help does Jalen Hurts need?
That's insane roster construction, man. That's insane roster
Howie Roseman's
construction.
A very good GM, man. He's a very good GM. The article just came out, man. It seems that the Titans are just packing it up and they're selling as well too. Have to definitely go ahead and look at some of the players that they have as well too, to see. Hey, send us back Aziz, man.
I would love
send us back Aziz and Brunskill. Like, yeah. Simmons.
Simmons.
Yeah. So the Titans Tannehill's hurt. Huh?
Can I ask the dumb question? Because is people saying Derrick Henry because Niner fans just want all the good players, or do you see that? Like, that to me makes no sense.
No, I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't. Brunskill.
That's what I said. Send back Brunskill.
I thought you said Aziz. They also have Aziz.
Yeah, well, they have both. Send them both back.
They have both, Brunskill and Aziz. Ooh.
Yeah. Send us back. Brunskill, we miss you, buddy.
Call the Jaguars, CJ Beathard, run the band back to get Nick Mullins. He's in Minnesota, right? Is this a Nick Mullins revenge game?
He's on IR.
Oh, he's on IR? Damn it.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Who else is there? River Craycraft?
No.
Who else can the Niners get?
No.
Former Niners. Ooh,
Richie James.
Trey Swilling. He's on Pittsburgh now.
We don't have a Holmes revenge game in this one.
Oh man, I didn't hear. I feel like these noon episodes throw me off. I forget things. Give up. Here we go. We're gonna do a quick Hooms revenge game. This is how I do it. In case you're wondering, I go to Immaculate Grid. I click give up, and then I click the show chart, and then I return the form to create the players. And now I'm clicking. This is me just telling you exactly what I'm doing. I'm clicking the Niners, now the Vikings, and now I'm scrolling down. Years 23. No, there isn't.
There's
Nick
not
Mullins.
one?
Nick Mullins would be the only one, because T.Y. McGill played for the Niners last year.
And
then Nick Mullins is the most recent on the Vikings who have played for the Niners. He's on the team, but he's on the IR. So no Hoomst. No Hoomst. Dante Pettis is another one we can get. Look at all these trades the Niners can make. Bring the band back together.
I think what we also forgot too is Dalton Risner is going to start, and he's not normally their starter on the offensive line for the Vikings as well too. So this defensive line, so this defensive line is going to have their chance to.
They really rolled out Ezra Cleveland. Is that what?
I don't think he's playing. I think it's Dalton Risner. So that's another thing. Again, another opportunity for the defensive line to not just get pressures. It's time to get sacks, and I think this is the week.
That makes me feel really good about my Javon Hargrave over half promo code Aponte.
Yep.
Got to get those plugs in, Jason. We always got to get those plugs in.
Yeah.
We'll be back tomorrow, right? Is that what we agreed on tomorrow at noon?
Yes, tomorrow,
Okay.
and then tonight will be post game show. Tomorrow is going to be jam packed. These Monday games throw off the whole schedule.
I hate it. So Jason's going live. Make sure you watch him, but I'll be on Steph's channel also tonight.
Oh, nice. There you
I'm
go.
doing Steph's. She asked me, figured I'd do it. But yes, so Jason Aponte's YouTube channel tonight, post game. I'll be over at Steph, and then tomorrow we'll be back at noon, ideally to break down a 49ers win, hopefully breaking down a Niners win. And then we'll be back Friday for the normal episode. Jason and I will talk about maybe doing a trade deadline thing if the Niners have to do something to do. We're not going to do a trade deadline thing and be like, well, the Niners did nothing. Jason Aponte as always, like we're not going to do that, but we'll see. We'll talk about it. I love all the names being thrown out there. Jason Aponte, let's wrap it up. Let's get out of here.
Could you imagine Trey Lance in a Kyle Shanahan offense, Andrew Pasquini?
Oh my God, dude! Can you tweet that? Can you throw that out there? Just throw. Hey, can you imagine Trey Lance in the Shanahan offense?
Yeah, but then everybody's gonna be like, "We saw it, and he sucks." Because nobody has a sense of humor anymore. Yeah, that's it. Whenever I have someone who doesn't get the joke on Twitter,
I think we gotta wait a couple years.
Yeah.
I think we gotta wait for the first inkling of the Cowboys are looking to move on from Trey Lance, and then we'll throw out. Could you imagine?
Trey Lance in this Kyle Shanahan offense with
these
weapons?
God! So we gotta wait. Hey, somebody put a reminder on their phone for a couple of years of when the first Trey Lance trade rumor gets leaked for Dallas. We need to throw that out. Could you imagine?
Whenever someone doesn't get the joke, that's the voice that I hear. I read it and I hear the voice, and it's rah, 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 rah. I'm like, you're just miserable, man.
I die on the inside. As I said, I thought it was pretty obvious that me saying last week that the Niners need to panic trade for Brian Burns because the Eagles got Julio. People are like, panic trade? What?
Yeah.
Thank you for getting the bit, my guy. I appreciate it.
Right.
Jason, I love it. I love this show so much, man. I have so much fun. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Ideally, talking Niner win. Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners. Enjoy Monday Night Football.
Enjoy Monday Night Football.
Stop adding players, Eagles.
Yeah, stop adding. Eagles, stop making trades. Stop bettering yourselves.
Stop getting better, Eagles.
Trade A.J. Brown to the Niners.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.